Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing for Designers podcast. I'm your host, Masha Coyne, a messaging strategist and a copywriter for the interior design industry. I've been marketing for what feels like forever in my past career at some of the biggest global firms like KPMG and Deloitte. Today, I write website copy for designers using my signature voice of customer framework. If you're a designer looking to up your marketing game and attract premium clients, this podcast is for you. Each week on the show, we're going to be talking all things marketing, from branding to messaging to social media, SEO, and so much more, so you can have all the tools you need to grow your business and attract your dream clients. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing for Designers podcast. I'm your host, Masha, and thank you so much for being here. So in this episode, it's going to be a short one, but I wanted to talk about website copy audits, not website audits, which is just looking at the entire website holistically. And I'm sure you've gotten website audits from various web designers and service providers in the past, where they look at everything on your website, like the visual side of things, the images, the user journey, the photographs, making sure they're all high res and loading speed and SEO and all the things website design and how the information in display is displayed and the fonts and basically everything that has to do with website design. So, and those are very important because your website design needs to work in tandem with copywriting. But today's topic is not about that. It's looking just at website copywriting from the copywriter's point of view. So we're looking at your content, your messaging, the strategy behind your website messaging, basically the words on your website. And I'm looking at it from a copywriter's lens. So as a website copywriter, I do website copy audits as part of my job. So I created the ultimate website copy audit checklist to help you ensure your website is not just visually stunning, but also strategic. And because I work exclusively with interior designers, this checklist is geared towards websites for interior designers. So I want to cover everything you need to know to perform a thorough, holistic audit of your website copy, the way a professional copywriter would if you were to hire a copywriter to do your audits. So by the end of this episode, you'll have a checklist that you can use to perform your own audit on your website. So where do we start? And I feel like that may sound common sense, but you need to start with, before you even start looking at the website copywriting, at the words on your website, you need to get clarity on the following. The first thing that you want to get clear on is who your target audience is. You have to be super clear. And maybe you're thinking about that specific dream client that you loved working with, but think about that. Get super clear on your target audience. You want to have a clear idea of what their core desires are, like what it is that they want when they hire an interior designer. How do they like to feel in their home? What are they looking for when they hire you? You also want to be clear about what their pain points are or the challenges that they're experiencing in their life that bring them to hiring an interior designer. And then you also want to be clear about the objections and hesitations your ideal audience has. So what questions do they have? Because at the end of the day, your website content needs to address those questions. So it's super important that you get a clear idea on your target audience, on their core desires, on their pain points and objections and hesitations. And the next thing that you want to have clarity on is your differentiator. So your unique value proposition. What is that thing that sets you apart from all the other designers? Be clear on that before looking at your website. And then the last thing, before I actually do a website copy audit, what I like to do is map out a user journey. So what does that mean? So when your prospective client lands on your website, what journey do you want to take them? So they land on your homepage. What what do you want them to do next? What do you want them to read? How do you want them to consume your website copy, your brand story, the information about your process, your different service offers? What does that journey look like? And where do you want them to end up? And obviously, we want them to end up on your contact page or whatever it is that the call to action that you want them to take, the next step. So this is what the user journey look like. Usually you start at the homepage and then you kind of take them on the journey through different core pages and then finally land on your contact page. So that's the process that I go through before I even look at copy. And when I do like paid audits for my clients, I typically have them fill out my client questionnaire. So I get that information from them ahead of time. And then I use that information to actually look at their website strategically. So now let's talk about the audit. Let's see how many. There's 17 points in my checklist. So there's 17 elements that I look for on every interior design website. So let's start with number 1. And this one is, we're starting at the very top. So the first thing that we want to have is the easy to navigate menu. So what I'm talking about here is at the very top, or maybe you have a hamburger menu on your website, but I want to make sure that there's a menu that's clearly laid out. There's the clear names to your pages. So I'm looking for home, services, about, project. Maybe you have a blog, maybe you have another page. There's lots of different pages that you can have, but you want to make sure that they're clearly named, that you're not trying to get clever, because I've seen instances where interior designers are trying to get super clever with the names, with the way they name their pages. What happens when you start getting clever and when you're doing the clever over clear is that, yes, you are, it's coming across as very, I guess, creative or innovative, but your audience, you're not looking at it from the audience point of view, and it may not be clear in terms of what that page is, or do they even want to click on it? What are they going to find on that page if it's not very clear? And I've seen designers get super clever with their blog pages or about pages, and what happens is that you're just making your audience think or hesitate, or even, get confused, and a confused mind doesn't buy. So if you're starting to get clever with your menu, it can lead to inaction on the part of your audience. So, and just remember, we're not trying to win like a best website award. We're just trying to bring in clarity and make sure that when our ideal client lands on our website, they can find information easily. That's what we're trying to do. So that was number 1. Number 2, you want to have an attention-grabbing headline above the fold. So the mistake that I often see on interior design websites is that they either do not have a headline and all you see is just a visual, the beautiful photo of your work, or maybe the headline is too generic, like, beautiful interior design with function or something like that. And, it's just generic, any other designer can have that headline. So it doesn't really help you set yourself apart. So you want to make sure that it grabs your ideal audience's attention. And this could be, your headline could be the big promise that you are making to your ideal audience, or it could be your differentiator. Your secret sauce, the thing that sets you apart from any other designer. And ideally, your differentiator, whether it's your process or aesthetic or something else, ideally, it has to match your audience's big desire or pain point. Typically, in the interior design world, it is the desire that we're speaking of. It is a luxury service, and it's a want rather than a need oftentimes. So the first statement or the first few sentences that your audience will see, it really needs to reassure the reader that they are in the right place and you can help them, that their problems, their challenges, or their desires are addressed here, that you can help them address those. So that was number 2. Number 3, your location. clearly stated on the homepage. How many times I've gone to an interior design website and I cannot find where they're located. It's such a simple thing to do, but sometimes designers overlook that part. And as a designer, you're first and foremost, you're a local business. I mean, of course, there are designers that work everywhere, or they've got a virtual service, but it's so important for most designers to have a location clearly stated on the homepage so nobody has to go looking for it. Don't make me go look hard for this information. Um, I know it's tempting to just have it on the contact page, but you want to make sure it's also stated on the homepage, because at the end of the day, that's where your ideal audience or your website visitors land. That's where they start the journey on the website. So you want to make sure that it's there. Now, the next point on my checklist is a compelling call to action. So, call to action is basically, what is that step? What is that action that you want your audience to take when they land on your website after they've started consuming your content? But you want to make sure that it's compelling and not generic. Very often we see generic calls to action, which is like click here or learn more. Yes, it's pretty straightforward what it is that you want me to do, but it's not compelling enough to make me actually take that next step. It doesn't make me want to go and reach out to you and click on your contact page or make an inquiry or whatever it is that you want them to do. Sometimes you've got like mini calls to action, like download my lead magnet or subscribe to our newsletter, whatever that is. You want to make sure it's compelling, it's inviting, and makes me want to take that next step. Because the goal of your website is not only to just provide information about your services and about your brand and about you personally, but it also needs to address the questions and actually take me on a journey to that call to action at the end to reach out. That's what you want your website visitors to do. The next step on the checklist is social proof. So, social proof is something that flags trust to your interior design visitors, to your website visitors. It's things like featured in, seen and heard on. So basically your press. If you've been featured in publications, that's where you want to feature on the homepage. As soon as they start scrolling from the above the fold, you want to feature those impressive publication features under the featured in or trusted by, or maybe it's various design industry associations, or maybe it's years in business. If you've got like 2 decades of running your business or something like that. Another way to highlight social proof is also featuring customer testimonials. Those are huge. It flags authority, it showcases your credibility, it tells your website visitors that other people have trusted you, and that's critical. It needs to highlight that aspect that it needs to build trust. Your copy on your website needs to build trust because it's tied to the idea that people are more willing or likely to trust and follow the actions of others. That's what it does. The next thing is a well-organized homepage. So what does that mean? There is no right or wrong in terms of how you design your homepage or how do you lay out your information or content on your homepage. But there is a more effective way to organize a homepage. So your homepage needs to take your website visitors on a journey from where they started in the beginning, maybe knowing very minimal information about you, to where do you want them to end up, to having kind of a look at what you work like, what your process is like, who you are as a person, as a designer, what sets you apart, and then get them ready to take that call to action and finally reach out. So your homepage is like a gateway to the rest of the site. So if you've seen other interior designers' websites, or maybe yours is organized in that way, where you land on a homepage, there's the main headline, and then as you start to scroll down, you see snippets of information. A little bit about you, a little bit about your firm, a little bit about your services, your process, and so on and so on. And every single one of those snippet sections, there is a call to action that you can click on, and it takes you to a dedicated page. So, for example, that snippet about you, there's a call to action that says something like learn more about us or get to know us, and that would link to your dedicated about page. That's where you get into more detail about yourself and about your firm. Okay. So now that we've covered well organized homepage, let's switch gears and talk about the effective about page. So this is another one of the core pages, and this is actually one of the most visited pages on your website. So an effective about page is a page that shares your story. It shares your experience. It helps your audience, your website visitors, to understand why you, meaning it clearly articulates your differentiator, your secret sauce. At the end of the day, your about page needs to create that emotional connection to your ideal client. So when they land on your about page and learn all the things about you and about your brand story and what brought you to this point in your life or in your business, what made you, kind of what you've done in your career. And when you take them on this journey and provide all of this information on your about page, it helps them fall in love with your brand. So definitely that's what you want to do on your about page. Don't just make your about page about kind of just your experience or how long you've been in business. Take them on a journey. Weave storytelling into your about page. Share your backstory, what you've done. Maybe your interior design is your second career. What did you do before? What kind of transferable skills do you have from that other career? Tie it to where you are today and why is it relevant to your prospective customers. Now, the next point on the checklist is a clear services page. And interestingly enough, I do a lot of these website copy audits. Interestingly enough, sometimes designers skip that page altogether, which is just bizarre because that's another one of your most visited pages because your audience, when they land on your website, yes, they want to get to know you and they want to make sure they understand who you are as a brand, but they also want to get to know your process. They also want to get clarity in terms of how you work. So you want to have a clear services page that outlines what's it like to work with you. So we're talking about like a step-by-step process, or maybe it's your services page can be broken into phases in your process. But most importantly, it's not that you just kind of lay out what you do in every step of the process, but you actually want to showcase the value that you provide to your clients. So how do you make your clients' lives easier with every step in the process? So that's a services page. And then the next, so we're still talking about the core pages because there's 5 core pages on every interior design website. Obviously, there's different websites, and you can do whatever you want with your website. But you want to make sure that you've got, your home page, your about page, your services page, and now we get to a portfolio page. You want to make sure it's an impactful portfolio page. Typically, we see. That's where we see your work displayed, but you want to make sure that it doesn't only showcase your work, but also provide context. Because images of your work, while they can speak volumes and they can kind of stand on their own and speak for themselves, but you want to provide a bit of context for your users. You want to provide things like project names, locations where that project was, customer testimonials. You want to use a bit of storytelling on your project page. You can actually structure your portfolio pages like mini case studies. So talking about, what are the main pain points or the challenges that your clients came to you with and how did you solve them? Kind of showcasing your creative process. And that's where you can talk about your signature aesthetic if you do have that. Or maybe you want to highlight your ability to design in different styles. But basically, the reason why you want to use words on your portfolio page along images is because you want to provide context to your website visitors and explain to them how you do what you do, not just the work, because the beautiful images cannot communicate, what was the original state of the home that your client came to you with? What were the challenges that they were experiencing? And, how did you overcome these challenges and found the creative solutions? So it helps through storytelling and through providing a bit more information, you help to provide some type of narrative for your clients, for your ideal audience. The next thing that you want to look at as you're doing the audit for your website is you want to look at an action inspiring contact page. Well, having a generic contact page is absolutely fine if it has like a simple form or it has your phone number, maybe your address of your studio, or maybe just the email address. That's absolutely fine, but that's the bare minimum. Uh, how do you want people to reach out? That's that's the number one. Obviously, that's the number one um, call to action that you want to have on your contact page. But if you were to use a contact form to vet or pre-qualify your website visitors, and you want to include various questions that could help you during the discovery call, that could make your life so much easier to pre-qualify people and to not waste your time, including questions like the budget or desired start date, or have you ever worked with a designer? All of these questions, like the more robust your contact form, the better you can pre-qualify people that you get on the phone with on a discovery call. And you want to make it super easy for people to reach out. So, maybe you want to use a form, but you can also use like a direct link to your booking page so people can schedule a call with you. But the one thing that I do want to mention about the contact page, you want to use a action inspiring language on it. So remind your website visitors why they should reach out. You want to inspire some type of action. You want to remind them of, how you can solve their problems, or maybe it's that transformation that they're looking for and you can help them achieve that. So remind that. It's as simple as just using like a simple statement on your contact page to inspire that action that you want them to take. Okay, so that was number 10. Number 11 is a very important one. So it's audience centric language. So it's almost like more about them and less about you, because your copy, yes, your website is all about you and about your brand story and about your process, but the copy needs to speak in the language that the reader, your ideal audience, will understand. It needs to make me feel seen and heard and understood in the copy of your website. Uh, it's as simple as using more you than we and us. So because you already know your audience, you know what they're struggling with, you know what pain points they have, you know what desires they want or what transformation they want, use that to your advantage. Use that in copy to remind them that yes, you know exactly how they feel, you know exactly what they want, what they aspire their home to look like, and you are the interior designer to help them with that. So make sure the language, the way you use copy on your website actually speaks to what your ideal audience want. Okay, so next is number 12, and that's clarity over clever. So you want to make sure that you're using simple, straightforward language to communicate your ideas. It needs to be absolutely free of industry jargon and easy to understand for someone who is not in the interior design industry. And I know it's very tempting sometimes to use clever language to kind of showcase your creativity, but you want to, yeah, you can get clever, but you want to make sure that it's clear first, that you've got clarity. So it's absolutely clear to your audience, who you are, how you help, what's your differentiator, what your process is like before you start getting clever. So that's a very important one. Next is number 13 is a clear differentiator. So you want to make sure on your website, on the core pages, you want to have a clearly articulated unique value proposition. I know there's so many different terms for this. So unique value proposition, there's unique selling proposition, secret sauce, X factor, all kinds of things. But basically, It's the thing that sets you apart from other interior designers. When people land on your on your website, you want to make sure that it's clearly stated what is that element in, maybe it's how you work, maybe it's your process, maybe it's your signature aesthetic. Whatever that is, it needs to be super clear and easily found by your ideal audience. So oftentimes we would see your unique value proposition stated on the homepage. That's where I want to see it. But I also want to make sure that I come across that on your about page or on your services page, because what we know is that website visitors do not read the copy on the website in a linear fashion, like the way they would read a book. They kind of like to jump around from page to page. They first start on your homepage, then maybe they'll skip to your about page, then maybe your services page. So we can't control what it is they're reading, but we can guide them. We can guide their user experience, their journey on your website. And you want to make sure that you state your unique value proposition on various pages, or allude to that on various pages. So that was number 13. Next, number 14 is clearly articulated value. So we want to make sure that you state the explicit value of your services to your audience. So for example, on the services page, yes, we want to see the step-by-step process, but you want to make sure that when you're articulating the steps in your process, that you also articulate how exactly do you make your client's life easier. So not only what you do, but how you do and how it helps them. That's number 14. We're getting almost to the end. So number 15 is emotional connection. So more about them, less about you. So the way we build an emotional connection is, when you share your brand story, when you share something personal, when you are kind of threading your understanding of your audience pain points and desires throughout the content, that's when they feel seen and understood. That's when they start reading your content, consume your content, and they feel that you get them. That's when emotional connection, that's when we spark an emotional connection. So make sure when I'm auditing, I'm always looking for different elements that spark an emotional connection. And then number 16 is a call to action on every core page. So when people land on your homepage, by the time they get to the end of that homepage, there has to be a call to action at the end of the page. If they skipped to your about page, you want to make sure there's a call to action on the about page. If they skip to your services page, you want to make sure that there's a call to action at the end of that page. You want to what you want to do as the host of this party, when people land on your website, you want to guide them where to go next. Don't just assume that they'll know where to click. For example, if they're on a homepage, don't assume that they know that if they want to learn more about you, they need to click on about page. Or if they want to learn more about your process, that they need to click on your services page. Don't assume that. Make it easy for them. Include a call to action on every core page. Now, the 17, my favorite one, I left until the end. But I think this is such an important element, and that's a design philosophy. So this is not something that I would look for on any other website, although I only work with interior designers. But having a design philosophy on an interior design website is absolutely imperative. So what is it? Your design philosophy is the guiding principle behind your creative process. It encompasses your beliefs, your values, and approaches to design, and it reflects how you think and execute your design projects. So it's extremely important because, well, first and foremost, your design philosophy provides a point of differentiation. So it sets you apart from other designers. Your unique philosophy can really resonate with clients who share similar values or appreciate your approach. It also builds trust, because it builds trust by showing potential clients that you have a clear, thought out approach to your work. And it really assures them that your designs are not just arbitrary, but are really grounded in a consistent vision or a specific process or methodology. And it also helps clients connect with you on a deeper level. So we just talked about an emotional connection. So having a design philosophy can help with that. When you understand your design philosophy, they can better appreciate the thought and care you put into your work. And it serves as a guide for your projects, ensuring consistency and coherence in your designs. So make sure you include a design philosophy. And actually, one of the things that I noticed on some interior design websites is when I land on them, I often see quotes from like various famous people or scholars or somebody recognized, like some type of public personas. And I always feel that it would have been so much more impactful if this was your own quote rather than stating somebody else. So definitely consider thinking about your design philosophy, what it is, creating a really succinct statement, and then including that on your website. And that's that. So that was 17 elements in my website audits checklist. These are the core elements that I look for anytime I'm auditing an interior designer's website. And I hope you found this helpful. And I really encourage you to try it out, to really look at your website critically, subjectively, from the point of view of your audience, because at the end of the day, your website is not just a place where you showcase your work or tell your story, but it's also where you can really build a connection with your ideal client. That's where you can address their questions, highlight your credibility, and showcase the value that you bring to your clients. And that's it for today. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Marketing for Designers. This is Masha Cohen signing off. See you next week.